Jessie B. So I'm excited for this video because I'm gonna share a story with you guys that I wrote back in college. It's a horror story, it's really creepy, and it got really popular online when I posted it. I know that, a video where I'm reading a story isn't, appealing to everybody, so if this is not your thing, I'm really sorry. But if you guys are interested to hear this, that really makes me happy because I love sharing my writing and I don't do that very often. And it was a really huge part of my life. And I wish I was still writing, but unfortunately I'm just so busy all the time, and that's a horrible excuse, but I will again soon, I'm sure. But the thing about me is I just love writing horror stories and creepy stories, which shouldn't surprise you guys because that's literally everything about me, right? And this story isn't super long, but I did want to share it. Back when I was in college, I had a lot of free time between classes, so like on lunch or just free periods, I would sit down and I would just write freaky stuff. None of the stories that I wrote were real or even really based off anything. It's just stuff that sort of came to my mind. I think what sort of influenced me was first of all, I used to love Reddit. I still love Reddit, but there is a subreddit called No Sleep, which I don't know if you guys have heard of. Some of you might be, too young and don't really explore that stuff. But it's a place where people post their horror stories. So I wrote this particular story. It's called I'm Not Supposed to Tell Anyone This, and I posted it on No Sleep, and instantly it just went crazy. Like, I think right now it has like 1,300 upvotes, which is pretty good for No Sleep. So it's definitely still one of the popular ones, and I just got tons of feedback. There were actually people emailing me asking me if they can make this into like a short film or if they can illustrate this. So I felt proud. I was like, yes! My story's getting recognized. So yeah, I'm going to read it to you guys, and it sucks because I had planned for this video to have tons of illustrations sort of attached to it or like animated or something, but I couldn't find anybody that was willing to do it for me. It's just to hire an animator or an illustrator, it's a lot of money, and I just don't have that sort of money, especially now that I moved into this new house. So yeah, I just had to find sort of pictures off the internet to hopefully go with this a little bit. But the point is that you sort of need to listen to the story and not really care about what images are shown. But anyways, I will put images and creepy music anyway. So I'm gonna start this. So just sit back, relax, put some headphones in, lie down, try and picture what I'm saying in your mind. You don't necessarily have to, watch me talk. Okay, here I go. It's called I'm Not Supposed to Tell Anyone This. It all started this past November. I had a major job interview in Toronto at a graphic design firm. They needed me in the city for a few days as there were 2 training sessions I had to attend along with this interview. Because I live in Niagara, which is about a 2-hour drive away, I decided that it would be wise just to stay at a hotel so I wouldn't have to drive back and forth every day. About a week before the interview, I was at my boyfriend's house looking online for relatively cheap hotels that were close to the graphic design firm. He brought up that I should go on a website called Airbnb, which is an online trusted marketplace where guests can book spaces from hosts like apartments or houses. I ended up finding a woman who was going on vacation for about a week during the exact time I was supposed to be in Toronto. She was renting out her apartment for $50 a night, which I thought was very generous. I ended up giving her a call and we arranged the time I would be coming over. The apartment building was very run down. The windows looked like they hadn't been cleaned in years and the brick walls were crumbling and discolored. I took a deep breath and considered telling the woman that my interview was canceled so that I could find somewhere else to stay. But $50 a night seems so perfect compared to hundreds of dollars a night at a hotel. I decided that I would at least check out the room before making the judgment. I knocked on the old wooden door with the number 14 painted in gold and waited a few moments before the woman swung it open and greeted me with a smile. She was a lot younger than I expected, maybe in her late 20s. Her voice sounded so tired and ragged on the phone. I had thought she was at least 50. "You made it," she explained. Come in, come in." She gestured into the room, which I am relieved to say was very clean and welcoming. It was definitely one of those don't judge a book by its cover moments, and I've always hated that saying, by the way, heard it too often as a kid. She gave me the quickest tour of an apartment that I had ever received, briefly pointing to the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and hallway closet. It was a small space, but perfect for me. Her place was filled with vintage collectibles, lace, elaborate curtains, old candle holders. I was still examining my surroundings when she interrupted me with, "So you're all set then? I'm going to go now." I barely had any time to speak with her. She seemed to be in a huge rush. "Wait," I said, trying to catch up to her as she made her way out the door carrying a large backpack. "Is there anything I should know?" She shook her head slowly, locking eyes with me for a few moments too long. Without speaking, she left. I made myself comfortable for a little while, unpacking and fixing myself a quick snack in the kitchen. I had about 45 minutes before I had to leave for my interview. I'll skip past the details of the interview because they aren't even nearly as important as the occurrences that happened afterwards. It was very late when I got back. The apartment building was pitch black except for a small light at the top of the staircase that flickered flickered every few seconds. I used the light from my phone to make my way up the stairs to apartment 14. I wondered who else was living in the building. I hadn't seen anyone since I arrived. It was too quiet. It took me a few moments to find the light switch on the wall when I entered the room. From the doorway, I was able to see into the bedroom. The first thing I noticed was that a few of my clothes were sprawled over the floor. I quickly kicked off my shoes and approached the mess. I came to the conclusion that I must have been in a rush when I was getting ready for the interview and forgot to clean up. I was tired, so I had a quick shower and jumped into bed. The mattress wasn't very comfortable, but I was so exhausted that I drifted right into sleep. A loud shuffling somewhere in the apartment woke me up with a startle. I sat up and squinted to try and see through the darkness. Just before I was about to lay back down to sleep, thinking it was just one of my neighbors in their apartment, I saw a shape. At first, I thought it was one of the woman's elaborate curtains playing tricks with my eyes in the dark, but then it moved, just ever so slightly. The black shape was tall and lanky. It almost resembled a man, but it was just too hard to see. I inched my arm for the light switch, my heart pounding out of my chest. Just before the light flickered on, the figure fell on all fours and crawled inhumanly out of sight. "What the heck?" I couldn't help but whisper. With the light now on, I got up and slowly made my way around the apartment, trying to find out what I just saw. But there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Without anything else I could do, I went back to bed. There must have been a logical explanation for what happened. It was all in my head. In the morning, I called the woman. I must have sounded so strange when I asked her if she had anyone else that lived with her that maybe came into the room last night not expecting me to be there. She paused for a while and then answered with no, and insisted she was busy and had to go. I proceeded with my day, going to my first training session. When I came back that night, I felt extra cautious. I brought a knife with me to bed, placing it under my pillow. I was woken up once again at about 2 a.m. This time the figure was much closer than it had been the previous night. I gasped, so filled with fright that I couldn't move or scream. The figure was so skinny. Through the shadows, I could almost make out the ribcage underneath the skin. It was naked. Its face lingered in the dark except for 2 dark circles where its eyes must have been. I tried to scream once again, but it came out like a loud choke. Whatever it was, it reached its finger up to its mouth with a soft shh. The sound was so haunting, it sent a shiver down my neck. Shh, don't tell. I must have been in such a shock that I passed out because when I woke up, it was morning. All I could do was cry, so confused. I had never been so scared in my life. It couldn't be real. I was brought up my whole life not to believe in these things. But what if it was actually a disfigured man? Or what if it was something I only heard of in nightmares? I shook my head and rid the craziness. I was probably having nightmares because of all the stress. I left for my second training session, the very last day I had to be here. When I came back to the apartment around 10 p.m., I couldn't help but linger outside the door. I stared at the large 14 painted on the door, trying to find the courage to lift my key out of my pocket to open it. I told myself that all I had to do was last one more night and I'd be gone in the morning. I decided to sleep on the couch in the front room this time. This way I was even closer to the door so I could hear it coming if this thing decided to greet me again. It took me a long time to fall asleep. I watched 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and 3 a.m. go by on the clock. I must have dozed off because I woke up from a cold breeze. It was 3:47 a.m. I sat up on the couch to see that the window was open, making the curtain sway in the wind. As I got up to go close it, ready to call the police, I heard the soft shh behind me. I closed my eyes and started to cry. Shh. It got louder and louder. I slowly turned around to face this creature. It was crouched by the TV just a few feet away from me. It didn't move. It just kept its finger up to its lips. I feared that if I reached out for my phone to call the cops, it would come straight for me. "Please," I whispered. It was all I could manage to get out. "Shh. Don't tell," it said. And the scariest thing, since the first time I had seen this thing, was that it started to smile. It was smiling. Although it was dark, I could see the shadowed smile that hasn't left my mind in all the months that have passed. I remained completely still, and it stayed there for a few more minutes before it crawled past the couch and onto the windowsill, looking at me one more time before jumping out. I jolted from my phone and called my boyfriend. I told him everything. I was surprised he even understood me because I was such a mess. "Should I call the police?" I asked frantically.
"The police won't believe what you're saying. It's hard for me to even comprehend. I think you need to come home. You sound sleep deprived, and I think it's making you see things."
My heart sunk. Even my own boyfriend didn't believe me. "It smiled at me," I whispered. I heard him sigh before saying goodnight and hanging up the phone. I curled myself into a ball on the couch and attempted to sleep, but I didn't. How could I after that? As soon as the sun came up, I packed my things and bolted for the door. I had tried calling my boyfriend 6 times to tell him I was on my way home, but there was no answer. As I opened the door, I bumped right into the woman. She was back early. I didn't even know what to tell her when she asked how my stay was. "Look, I have to go. My boyfriend isn't answering his phone and I need to get home." I pushed her aside without thinking, just wanting to get into my car. "Wait, why isn't he answering?" she asked, with concern in her voice. I wasn't sure why she cared. I shrugged and continued down the stairs. I could see my car through the window on the bottom floor. I was so close to escaping. "Did you tell?" I heard her say softly from her room. You told, didn't you? Alright guys, so that is the end of the story, and basically what I was trying to get at was when you see this creature, you're not supposed to tell anybody, because if you do, the creature will be after them as well. So the reason why people thought this story was so freaky was because they obviously read it and heard about this creature, so like they thought that it would be after them, so I just told you guys, so watch out. No, but obviously it's not a real story, but it just, I don't know why I wrote it. I don't know how it came to my head, but it was so freaky, and I hope you guys found it entertaining. If you didn't, just let me know down below and I won't make one of these again. I don't know, I'm glad I had the courage to show this to you guys, and thanks for listening. Thumbs up for more creepy content, and yeah, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!